So we are going to make a turkey today. Why? Because Thanksgiving is round the corner. So I'm going to show you how to make a turkey beautiful, moist, and succulent by brining it. So stay tuned to see all the tips and tricks that we do to make sure that turkey stays succulent and moist. And we're going to serve it with the most amazing sides. So you're going to have to stick around. I'll give you a clue. One of them is duck fat potatoes. And I'm going to show you how to make the most amazing gravy. So I'll show you all the little ways that you can piece everything together and take the stress out of Thanksgiving so you can spend more time having a little tipple with your loved ones. Right, let's go.
So we're going to start by making the brine. You're going to zest and juice 1.5 lemons. Just squeeze those bad boys right in there. And then it wouldn't be Thanksgiving without something nice like some clementines. So get 2 of those and slice and put them in as well. Now just mush that up a little bit. And then we're going to add 2 sticks of cinnamon, 4 or 5 star anise, and then add about half a tablespoon of cloves, about 5 cardamom pods. You don't need to crush them, just leave them as they are. Then we're going to add a tablespoon of fennel seed, 1.5 tablespoons of coriander seed, and about 4 bay leaves. Just leave them whole. You can mix and match any of these kind of spices to your heart's content. Okay, now we're going to measure out 3 liters of cold water, and we're going to put in a cup of sea salt and about half a cup of brown sugar. You can use white sugar too if you haven't got brown. Mix that around until that dissolves a little bit. Then we're going to add in all those lovely spices and juices. Now on to the herbs. This is a selection I'm going to use from the garden. We're going to use some rosemary, some oregano. You can use dried lemon thyme. We're going to use some sage. And then we're going to use the soft herbs later, which is tarragon and parsley. So use about 4 or 5 sprigs of each type of the robust herbs. Don't put the soft herbs in. Put that all into your brine mix, give that little mix about, and then we're going to add in about 7 cloves of garlic. Just crush them and put them in if you can't be bothered to peel them, just like this. Now we're going to put this brine mixture onto the stove, bring it up to the boil, and then just simmer it for about 5 to 10 minutes until it looks like this. And then we're going to put in about 8 cups of ice. That's going to cool it down and give a bit more body to the brine. And then pour in 250 ml of pressed orange juice. And then you can put in your soft herbs now at this stage to infuse, so the tarragon and the parsley. Okay, I'm going to mix this through and set this aside. You can even do this the night before as well, which is a beauty part of this brine recipe. Now let's talk turkey. Look at this little baby. This is about 8.75 kilos, so that is a big turkey. Inside you're going to have the turkey neck and all the giblets. So we're going to save all of this for gravy, everything except the liver, which I find is a bit bitter. So you've got the heart there and the lungs. That will all go in towards the end. Now pour your brine into a nice container like this, or you could use a turkey brining bag. These Cambros are really handy. You should definitely try and pick one up. Now I'm going to add a couple more liters of water, take it up to about 7 liters. Not too much because then it might overflow when you put the turkey in. So put your turkey in first, see what it comes up to, and then just add a little bit more water to top that up, just to make sure the whole turkey is submerged. Now just mix that around so everything is dispersed quite nicely. And then we're just going to put some cling film over the top, put a couple of holes in it, and put this in your fridge to brine overnight. Now, a word of warning, when you put this in the fridge, make sure you clear everything out so you've got enough room for it, and support the bottom so you don't break the glass. You can put a trivet or something in there. Okay, now this one has been in for 24 hours, as you can see. You're going to take off the cling film. So now the brine has worked overnight. All those lovely flavors have permeated all the way through to the flesh. This does change the texture of the meat compared to a dry brine. You get a nice, moist, succulent flavor. Now take that out, put some fresh water back in that container, about 7 liters, then put that turkey back in and let that sit for about 10 to 15 minutes. That's just going to wash off any excess salt. This is a much better way rather than putting it under a tap. Set that aside, and like I said, just leave that for 10 or 15 minutes. So we're going to cut 3 sticks of celery and 2 carrots. This is going to be the base for what we're going to put our turkey on to roast. And then we're going to use a whole onion. Just peel it, dice it. Doesn't have to be perfect at all. This is kind of our mirepoix, basic building blocks for flavor. And then we're going to add a head of garlic in there as well. And then we're going to add a few of our robust herbs. We're going to put in some sage, some rosemary, some thyme. Use whatever robust herbs you have. I don't recommend any soft ones. Now put all that veg in a tray, add the turkey neck, and save the rest of the giblets for later. Don't put the liver in, that will make it bitter. Now the turkey's had a good soak, it's been chilling. We're going to take it out of the bath, and we are just going to give it a nice drying all over. Make sure you get it nice and dry inside and out. Don't be afraid to get your hand all the way up there. Make sure it's nice and dry. Then going to put in 1 red onion that's been quartered, a nice bit of salt, a nice bit of pepper, and then use all those leftover herbs, nice bunches of lemon thyme, some sage, some rosemary, whatever you've got really. And I'm also going to put in some parsley, some nice soft herbs in there as well. Then I'm going to cut a clementine in half and put that through so that when it roasts you get a lovely perfume and aroma to the meat. Also makes a fantastic gravy in the final product. Okay, now we're just going to tie this up. Now this turkey actually came with little holes in the skin where the legs already were kind of basically trussed for you. So I'm just going to show you how you can tie it up basically. Just wrap it around with the legs, pull it tight and make a double knot. It's as easy as that. You can use either or method. The benefit of the other method is the skin doesn't shrink back a little bit, but I'm not really too fussed about that. Now tuck the wings underneath like this, lift the bird up and give him a nice good tucking under. This just gives you a nice little finish. Oh, if we can get there. It's a heavy bird, so it takes a little bit of patience. Make sure you do it right, just like that. Now you've got your turkey all ready. We're going to do one last step. We're going to put some butter all over this. You can use a herb butter here, but I'm just using a good unsalted butter, about 100 grams or so, nicely softened. Put some under the skin just like that, massage it all the way down towards the bottom of the breast, and then take all the excess and rub it all over your turkey. So if you want a nicer finish, you can melt your butter and use a brush and put it all over, but I'm not too fussed with this. So just put that straight onto your trivet of vegetables, add a little salt and pepper, and we're going to roast this at 425 degrees Fahrenheit for about 30 minutes, and then we're going to drop the temperature down to 350. Now, general kind of rule of thumb, you're looking at 35 minutes of cook time per kilo. So roughly 4.5 hours, but rather than go by time, we're going to temp it, and I will talk about that later. Okay, add a double layer of foil. Add in about 300-400 mils of boiling water. Don't worry if you go a little bit over, we can always take that out later. Then put some more foil back over the turkey just to make sure it doesn't get too brown. And crimp it all with a cloth so you don't burn yourself. Put a couple of holes in it so it's nicely vented, and back in the oven at 350. We'll baste it every 30 minutes to an hour. So if you don't know what basting is, all you're doing is just taking out some of those juices with a turkey baster or a ladle, scoop some up, all those cooking juices, and pour that over the turkey periodically every 30 minutes to an hour or so, and then put that back in the oven. Okay, you're going to get about 200 mils of duck fat. We're going to add a selection of herbs, rosemary, sage, use whatever you want, it's your choice, and about 4 or 5 cloves of garlic. Let that infuse and put that to one side. Now peel 1.2 kilos of russet potatoes, and we're going to cut them into golf ball sized pieces. These make really good potatoes when you cut them this size. Now we're going to boil these in some salted water, plenty of salted water, but we're going to take them to the point where they almost look like they might fall apart. You want to make sure that they're simmering. You don't want to aggressively boil them. You're looking for about 12 to 15 minutes, and you want them to kind of look like this, where you can see some fissures that have started to open up in the potatoes. Okay, drain them, gently toss them, and then put them in a rack, and we're going to let these air dry. Now you can do this the night before, but an hour or two is perfectly fine. Now get 500 grams of Brussels sprouts, just nip off the ends there, and we're going to boil these in some boiling water and then put them into an ice bath that you're going to have prepared for later. I think I cooked these for about 6, maybe 8 minutes. They're almost cooked. Let them cool down, and then we're going to set them aside. You can do this the day before. You can prepare a lot of these sides a couple of days in advance to take the pressure off on the big day. Okay, now let's make some stuffing. So we're going to take about 50 grams of rolled oats, add some salt and pepper, put that in a pan and gently toast it until it goes kind of a little bit toasty brown, just like that. Then put them in a nice blender and blitz them up until you get a nice fine powder like this. Doesn't matter if it's a little bit coarse, just use the best you can with your blender. Set that aside. Okay, chop up 125 grams of lovely dried apricots. These are delicious. We're going to set that aside there. We're going to take 50 grams of walnuts and just crush them in by hand and chop it in a little bunch of parsley. So you can work out how much that is roughly. Go with what you have. And then we're going to have 500 grams of ground pork. This is really nice Berkshire pork, so it works really well. Mix that in, add some salt and pepper to taste. I think I added about maybe just under half a tablespoon there. Add half a teaspoon of cayenne pepper, and then you're going to grind over very generously some lovely fresh nutmeg. Do not use the pre-ground stuff. Take a tray, spray it with some cooking spray, mix your stuffing through one more time, and then just compact everything in. You can smooth it out with a spatula if you want to be a little bit fancy, and then put some cling film on this and set this aside in your fridge, and you have your stuffing. You can also do this 2 days in advance. So let's make our cranberry sauce. You're going to need about a cup or 250 mils of apple juice. You can use orange too. 80 grams of sugar and a nice stick of cinnamon. Mix that through until that's nicely dissolved, and then we're going to put in 12 ounces or 385 grams of fresh cranberries. Mix that through, put a lid on it, bring it up to the boil, and then simmer it for 8 to 12 minutes until most of the cranberries have popped and exploded and released their pectin. Add some salt and pepper, mix this through, and you have a beautiful cranberry sauce that you can make days and days in advance. Put this in a container, put some cling film on it, and set that aside. So we're going to use something you might not have seen before. This is called buckwheat or kasha. It's actually gluten-free, even though it says buckwheat. So don't worry about that. We're going to wash that off, and then we're going to put about 800 mils of water into a pan, add plenty of salt, bring that up to the boil. We're going to put the buckwheat in, cook it for 7 minutes, then turn off the heat and let it sit there for 5 minutes. Your buckwheat should look like this afterwards. Don't worry if you've overcooked them, they're still delicious and usable. Drain that off. We're going to set that aside. And while it's warm, we're going to put a good couple of splashes of red wine vinegar, add a good crack of black pepper, and then we're going to put in a lovely dollop of raw honey, about a good heaped tablespoon. Mix that through and set this aside. This is one of those things that you can even just have in your fridge for salads in the day-to-day. It is delicious and nutritious. Okay, now we're going to move on to 1 whole butternut squash. Just cut off the top there, carefully cut it down the middle, and then what we're going to do is we're going to scoop out the seeds here. And all we're going to do with this is just cut it down lengthwise after we've just chopped off the bottom bits there. And then just cut it into slices. You don't want to go too thin, you don't want to go too thick. I think that's probably about ½ an inch or so. So we're going to add about 2 tablespoons of olive oil, generous seasoning of salt and pepper. And then we're going to go in with a tablespoon of ground cumin, a tablespoon of ground fennel, and then a tablespoon of ground coriander. Toss that in the bowl just like this, very satisfying, and we're going to add about 1 to 2 tablespoons of maple syrup. Mix that all through again just like this and put that onto a baking sheet and set aside. You can even do this 1 or 2 days in advance as well. Now we're going to check on the turkey and get a head start on the gravy. This has been in for 3 hours. As you can see, a lot of cooking juices have leached out, and we may have put a little bit too much water in at the start, but that's okay. That just means more liquid for gravy. We're going to pour that through a sieve, and you're going to see a lot of fat that's going to come to the top. Ladle that off. Do not throw that away. That is great for roasting vegetables and potatoes, things like that down the road, even cooking pot pies with. Okay, just go through, do the same thing again, and then you're going to pour those cooking juices into a pan. Just put it on the stove, just set it aside for now. Pour the fat into that jug, and that fat's going to rise to the top again so we can skim that off again. So we're going to put the turkey back in for 20-30 minutes. This is the final cooking stages of the turkey. Okay, now just ladle off the fat that's come to the surface there and set that aside. And we're going to turn our attention to the gravy. Pour in about 3 or 4 tablespoons of flour, all-purpose, into your roasting tray. Mix that through, cook that out, and add about 1 liter of good quality chicken stock. We've got a recipe for this on the website. And then we're going to put all those giblets into the gravy at this stage because that's going to really enhance the flavor. Mix that through, bring this up to the boil. We're going to skim it from time to time and reduce it by half. Now we're going to check on the turkey. It should be done now, so I'm going to give it a temp. The breast wants to be about 155 to 160 in the thickest parts, and you want the thigh to be about 165 to 175. Now the thigh there was at 162, so it needs to be in a little bit longer, and the breast is at 160, so ideally I wanted to pull that off a little bit before, somewhere between 155 and 160, but we'll put it back in for 10 more minutes. Won't be the end of the world if it's a little bit over. Put a bit of foil on the breast so the other parts brown nicely. Okay, now we're going to focus back on the gravy. Just skim off any fat and scum that comes to the top. And once it's reduced by half, we're going to pass that through a sieve, making sure you get every last drop, and then we're just going to reduce it until the consistency that you like. Skim it off from time to time. Some people like it thick, some people like it thin. That's your choice, however you like it. Now set that aside. Now the turkey should be done at this stage. It's cooked for a total of about 4 hours. I temped it before, so I know that it's going to be done because that extra 10 minutes just browned up those little bits that I needed. Put it onto another tray, drain off any cooking juices, and then we're just going to put some foil on this and put 2 tea towels and let it rest for 1 to 2 hours ideally. I think I let it go for about an hour and a half. Now turn up your oven to 425 and let's cook the sides. We're going to put in the butternut squash there and roast that for about 30 minutes until it's tender. Pour your infused duck fat into a tray, warm that up, and then put our potatoes that have been air drying in there into the hot fat. Turn that over, add a little salt and pepper, and we're going to roast that for about an hour in total, turning halfway as we go. I forgot to show you that I put the stuffing in as well and cooked that for about 30 minutes, as you can see here. Just cut and portion that and we can set that aside for later. Very nice indeed. Turn your potatoes around in the fat after 30 minutes and put them back in. Squash has been in for 30 minutes, looks lovely. We're going to put that into our serving dish and we're going to add our buckwheat to this. Toss that all through. And then we're going to add some goat's cheese, just crumble it, about 4 tablespoons or so, and then snip over some chives and a good squeeze of lemon, and you have a beautiful side dish there. Now, potatoes have been in for an hour, so just take them out onto some kitchen paper in your serving dish, just to drain off some of the excess fat, sprinkle over a bit of salt, and they are good to go. You can keep them warm until you need them. Would be rude not to try one. Now we're just going to crisp up 6 rashers of streaky bacon, just get them nice and crispy, and then drain them off onto a tray there with a bit of kitchen paper. Pour off some of that fat, put in a handful of sage, get that crisped up a little bit, and then we're going to add in the Brussels sprouts that we made earlier. Put them in, give that a nice little toss around, and then add a good seasoning of salt and pepper. And we're going to put about 2-3 tablespoons of maple syrup. Be generous. Toss that through, cook it for a minute or 2, and then crumble in your bacon. Mix that through, and you have a beautiful, beautiful side dish. Got those lovely sweet salty flavors with those earthy Brussels sprouts. Absolutely delicious. So pretty much everything is done for Thanksgiving. Take off the foil, cut off the string that you use to tie the legs together, scoop out the insides. You can use all that in dressing, so don't throw it away. And if you want to serve it whole, you can do. If not, just carve it like a chicken. I'll show you half of one here, as I'm going to use the other half for something else. Just cut down the breastbone, just like you would with a normal chicken. Cut along the thigh there. I'll just flip that around. Now you can just fold this back and it will come out, or you can just cut along like this. So you've got a leg and a thigh there. Pull the breast towards you as you work it off the bone with a nice knife. You can use a diva there. Cut through. So you've got a lovely turkey breast right there. You can snap the wing off the tip there as well. And you've got a nice little flat there to serve. Now we're just going to portion up the leg and the thigh. Just cut down until you get to the joint. Pull the bone back, and there you have a turkey leg. I'll show you what we can do with that in a minute. Cut the bone out the thigh. Just go along, run your knife. Get a sharp long knife at the end, just to get through that bone, twist it back and cut it out. Straighten up the skin, and then get yourself a really nice long sharp knife and cut this into 2-3 pieces. It's a good way to make sure everybody gets a bit of dark meat and white meat. The meat is still lovely and warm and super juicy. Now we're going to slice up the turkey breast. Give yourself nice long even slices. This way everybody gets a piece. It's still super juicy and moist. You can just see the board full of juices there. Put this on your platter too as well, and get your turkey leg and just do some long cuts. Just hold it upright like this. You can see the tendons there, so you can separate it out, and this gives people a nice bit of leg meat as well. You can cut and shred your turkey however you like, but I'm only doing half here just to show you what you can do. That's enough for 8 people comfortably. And there you have a whole Thanksgiving dinner. If you want to serve it whole like this as well, you can do that too. Thanks for watching, friends. I know this was a long one. Happy Thanksgiving.
Beautiful Thanksgiving dinner. We have a gorgeous brined turkey. Try this one. It's absolutely delicious. Beautiful cranberry sauce, sprouts with maple, sage, bacon, beautiful stuffing. This squash with the kasha, with the buckwheat, absolutely gorgeous, especially with that goat's cheese. Dark fat potatoes, you can never go wrong, and a lush gravy. We are going to get plenty of dishes from this turkey for leftovers, so stay tuned for that for future videos. I'll show you a few things to do. So if you like this content, please like, comment, and subscribe. See you on the next one. Take care.